Hi, everyone. Welcome to Target Practice, a podcast about great managers, interesting data, and important decisions. Every episode, I sit down with great managers and talk about how they think and operate. Today, I have with me Jason Sullivan. Jason spent over a decade at Bullhorn, building products, integrating acquisitions, and leading teams. Today, he leads LFH Labs, Lead From Here, which is a workshop and studio for AI-first product development. Jason, it's great having you here.
Thanks for having me, Larry. Excited to be here.
So, Jason, you've done a lot in your career and you're doing a lot today. What would you say is your number one achievement?
That's a good question. I think for me, the big achievement for me, if you're talking product development, it's probably what I built at Bullhorn. At Bullhorn, we were the first in class front office, and we didn't have a back office, so we had a lot of different products that were kind of third partied into us for the back office stuff. And about 2 years in, I was asked to lead that team. And throughout, most of my time over the next 4 or 5 years, that's where I lived. And we went from no product in the back office to getting our first enterprise customer in less than a year. And it was incredible. And now, when I left Bullhorn, we were processing $1 billion a month through that system. And it was on an upward trend heavily. So that was definitely, from a product perspective, my greatest achievement. But I would say I actually felt like the people, the culture we built, and the teams we built. When I started at Bullhorn, we were a couple hundred. And when I left, at our peak, we were over 2,000. And it was just a massive, massive growth. But the teams we built within R&D was, something that I am personally, proud of, because that is something that there was so much trust, so much empathy, so many great people working together and working through some tough times, working through, layoffs, working through things that, overall a lot of companies would struggle with, because you lose the trust, you lose, people get scared, people get through in places where it's not great. But we were able to keep the culture and keep attrition at, single digits for a very long time through all of that. And the team we built, especially around, all of our teams were fantastic, but the teams we built around pay and bill, by the time, at the peak of the back office solution, we were 6 teams. So it was a very large group just working on one product.
I think people often don't realize how demanding building back office is, because you hear from your customers all the time.
Yes. And you can't get it wrong. You have to do it.
Very low tolerance for issues.
Yeah. People not getting their paychecks or not able to bill people. That is not a good place to be for good vibes from the customers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, what would you say was a situation that you were less proud of, that could have gone better?
Yeah. I think early on in that process, very, we brought on a lot of outside consultants, and I, as a leader, kind of gave my power to those consultants and just kind of said, this is just what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is what, and instead of hearing my people through that, that is, I a developer and a QA that I look up to more than anything at that time, that were fantastic. They both were just doing incredible things, and I just didn't hear them. And, I kind of let them complain and be frustrated and support them and say, man, I understand. I'm equally frustrated. I'm not happy about it. But at the end of the day, this is just where we are. We don't have this expertise to build this yet. We're starting to build that. And, this was the first few months probably of the project. And it was it was going not well. And so I let them vent, but I didn't actually challenge them to think of ways to increase our knowledge space or to collaborate more effectively. And I just kind of let them spin. And that was a mistake on my part. And I think that caused one of them to leave, and the other one didn't want to work on my team anymore. And that was a moment where I realized that I am in the driver's seat. Because this is still, I'd only been a full-time leader at that point for 2.5 years. So I was still cutting my teeth, still understanding where am I going as a leader and how do I actually effectively lead. And I had essentially not led. I had let a consultant lead and gave away my power as leader. And through that, hurt two of my best people. And that was a wake-up call. Before, over the next few years, I built the relationship back up with the one who stayed. And, I got to say, apologize to the one who left before she didn't leave right away, but she left in the next few months. And got to say my piece and let her know, that I made a mistake and felt horrible about how played out. But luckily, Bullhorn gave me the opportunity to continue to grow and learn. And that was I had another almost 8 years after that of building great teams and building great relationships and learning how to properly, effectively lead, especially in like a third party situation where you have a consultant that's they're experts in their technical space, but not in the leadership space. So you still have to lead through that. And that was a big mistake on my part.
It's hard to gain back trust once you've lost it.
For sure. Yeah. So it was a good learning experience. And it was but I think it's good. I thought it was like at the end of the day, like do I regret it? Sure. But would I change it? Probably not, because it made me who I am today as a leader. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing that. It's not a trivial thing to share.
definitely.
What would you say was a situation where you had an important decision to make and you needed data to
Mhm.
make it, and the data was available there?
Was available. Yeah. I mean, I think as we started to move quickly and growing and scaling, um, you know, there's a lot of metrics that people look at for success, like velocity and churn and all that stuff. And the data was there, but it was very manual. Leaders were taking hours upon hours upon hours to collect the data manually for their teams. We kind of decided to figure out a way to not have to do that. So I ended up building a tool that would basically automate all those metrics. So as we were kind of transitioning from, 6 or 7 teams to 20, 25, we didn't at that point we were integrating, I think, 2 or 3 acquisitions, getting them into the teams, getting them into a process, trying to like integrate whatever product we were going to integrate, and or let them kind of run in their own way, in their own space, but in our processes. So having that data effectively allowed us to say, hey, this is where we can go as a team. And as we're building more teams and we're investing in things like back office and things like AI and things around the product space that we were growing into, we were able to say, hey, this is the forecast on what an entry level can do, a mid level can do, a senior can do, a staff can do, a principal can do. Roughly across all of our teams, this is the average. This is what an average one can do. So if we build a team, we can say roughly, we know that if you put 2 seniors, 2 mid levels, and two juniors, then you're in a position where you've got X number of velocity out of the gate. If they're brand new, you can take this much of hit off, because we were able to also calculate a brand new dev into this company takes 3 to 4 months to ramp up effectively. And if we ended up building a platform, which we ended up doing, which is called Builders, where we built a onboarding solution to basically, like, it was a crash course in everything that was the company, everything that was R&D, and then everything that we do technically. So we were able to cut that down to a couple of months instead of 4 to 6. But ultimately, you would be able to tell you, like, hey, roughly, this is what you can expect from a delivery perspective, from a throughput perspective. So if you're getting work into the teams effectively, this is what you can expect from a delivery perspective. Having that data allowed us to really grow fast and grow really stably. So it was, I think that was probably one of the best things, was having that data, is understanding what we were doing from an actual day-to-day perspective, and be able to translate to strategy of, like, this is how we build and build effectively, and then this is the output you can expect.
Very impressive. We had multiple episodes here where the most important metric that people mentioned was how long it takes to onboard somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an interesting, because especially when you're in hyper growth mode, you start wondering, like, hey, we're going to hire 15 people over the next 2 months. Like, what, when can we expect them to be effective? And it's like, it's not day one. We know that for sure. But what does that look like? And I think that's the faster you can let people do what they do best, the better. So
When they could be
yeah,
effective, and when do they stop being afraid of touching the code?
exactly.
Okay. Now, what was a situation where you had an important decision to make and you needed the data, but you weren't able to get it?
Yeah. That probably goes back to the big product build in the early part of my time at Bullhorn for the back office solution. We had consultants come in, and they were experts in the space, no doubt about it. And we had experts from a technical perspective that had a very distinct vision on where we had to go from a back end solution, from a queuing solution, from all of the architecture perspective. And that didn't necessarily align to where the consultants wanted to go with it. And so there was a lot of conversation around, like, no, we're going to be in a situation where we won't be able to effectively do our jobs, because we're going to code ourselves in a corner, essentially. So ultimately, it was a lot of conversation back and forth, and we just didn't have the data. Um, to really get there. And that's kind of where a large frustration point for us was, because this was so new for us. It was hard for us to like really say like, no, actually, it won't work this way because we have, the throughput will end up bottlenecking us when we're processing $1 billion a month. And so that was kind of what led to the fallout and the frustration and me dropping the ball as a leader. We ended up, once we got past that, we were able to kind of reevaluate it, approach it differently. We acquired a different company, or not a different company, we acquired another company, and they had expertise, and that expertise aligned to where we were going. And that ended up allowing us to get there. But during that time, we didn't have the data to say this isn't the right way. So we ended up going down a path and then reversing course and kind of going our path eventually. So not having that data, having that expertise would have helped, having the data to say, hey, this is actually how larger enterprise level back office solutions really do it. And we didn't have it. So now that we had, then from there it was, we were, like I said, we were still even with all those failures, we were still enterprise customer at 11 and a half months basically. So it was, it's pretty rough not having that data.
Nice. Okay. Now, to lead from here, you do a lot of AI first development. What are you most excited about?
AI is a pretty interesting space. I think it's very cool in a lot of ways. I think it's leading to some premature decisions at the executive level in a lot of places. But I do think at the end of the day, like, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But I think from my perspective, what I'm excited about is what it allows people to do. For my, like, me as a developer, like I've always been a builder throughout my time. Like, I love leadership. That's my new passion, but I still build. I still love building too. And it allows you to build the things that are the cool, fun things and let AI kind of do the things that are not as fun and kind of the boilerplate stuff and building. Like, I don't want to build a Stripe integration. I just don't. Like, it's not fun. Like, so AI, go build that. I'll verify it all and you do your thing. Stuff like that is really interesting to me because it allows you to do it. From a content perspective, a part of LFH Labs is a new game studio that I'm launching called Penumbra Games, and it allows you to kind of have to build a framework of like, hey, these are the people I'm thinking, these are the names I'm thinking, this is the city, the made up city I'm thinking. Help me like think through like how we could fill in gaps of lore. Like, how do we figure out what can we do from here? And a team of developers, you have people that have a mix of emotions about AI. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, AI allows you to kind of build whatever you want to build. And I think that's when you talk about the lore and the gaming and things like that, that same thing can be brought to your teams and how you actually approach the work. And I think if you work through the worry, I guess is probably the worry, the fear. If you can work through that, I think developers can really see how versatile it can be from a document. I mean, you can do anything with it, really. I mean, so you can work through the documentation, you can work through the boilerplate, you can work through the automation, you can work through, understanding where you're going as a developer. Like, I ask it more questions about why, like, because some of the things that it does when I'm like trying to build it and I'm like reviewing the code and it's, why did you make that decision? Like, what was the thought process behind it? And then just hearing it explained helps me be a better builder. Cause it's like, oh, okay. I understand where you're going with it. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. But I think that's if you're doing it right and you're not just vibe coding and be like, here you go, just go build this thing. I think you can really learn a lot because it's such a vast engine of knowledge. So I think I'm excited for what it can do for developers that are open to it and are willing to embrace what it's powerful at, but also not give away your power. Kind of coming back to that leadership conversation of like, don't give away your power because you do have you are the expert. You still have to validate everything it's doing because if you're not, you will put yourself in a corner. I mean, I think you're seeing it at some of the big tech companies now that have some of the major outages and things like that. It's awesome. I think it's awesome. But I also think we're not where everybody is hyping us up to be from a technology standpoint.
I think it's a very interesting perspective. Okay. Now, what would be one metric that you would recommend for engineering leaders or builders that's non-trivial?
I mean, yeah, if you talk to an executive, they're going to ask about velocity, throughput. They're going to ask about, what's your churn rate? What's your defect rate? But actually, while I was at Bullhorn, part of the system I built was it was a survey, essentially. Went out every release towards the end. At the beginning, we tried to do sprintly, but that felt like a lot. And it was just about mindset. And kind of the theory behind it is you ask questions like, how do you feel about where we're going? Like, do you have a product vision? Do you understand where the product's going? How do you feel about your leader? How do you feel about quality? And then how do you feel about your relationship with the rest of the mission, where we're actually like as a mission, how do you feel about our goals? And then just how do you feel safe essentially? It's, it's a 1 to 10 scale, takes 30 seconds at most. And they usually, most teams would do it before they would do retro. And so they would fill that out and then they would review it together. And honestly, if people wanted to talk about it, they could, but nobody had to talk about it. And essentially the theory behind it was if you understand where everybody's mindset is, you're able to effectively understand where the team is going. It's a little emotional from my perspective. I'm very analytical, but what I found was that if a team was struggling, their mindset would shift before their metrics would shift negatively. So if we were able to understand that their mindset was shifting, hey, like we're frustrated because we don't understand where the product going, or I don't feel safe, or because that happens like around like layoffs and things, the safety tanks because everybody doesn't feel safe. Very normal. If you know that people's mindset is in a bad spot, you as a leader can now go in without being like, hey, I saw there was a 3 on that. Who was it? It's more of like, hey, felt like the scores are a little low. What's going on? How are you guys feeling? What can I help with? How can I make the connections here? It looks like we're not connected with where the product's going. What can I do to help with that? Those effective one-on-ones that obviously are built around trust and empathy. If you don't have that, you're not going to get the direct answers. But those kind of one-on-ones can be very helpful to understanding where people are at and then changing course to get things or keep things aligned without actually seeing the dip in throughput and the velocity and all the things that executives are really worried about. And rightfully so. It's a business. They have to, we have to make money. We have to be effective. But that's kind of the bridge for me as a director was, where's everybody's mindset at? I could look at a view and understand where all the team's mindset scores were at. And okay, this team looks a little concerning. I can follow up with their leader, talk about like what's the strategy to go forward. What are the conversations you're having? What are you hearing? And it makes you more effective as a group to understand where everybody's mindset is. So yeah, I think that's an important one. But I think it's a very important one.
Leading indicator.
Yes, exactly.
Jason, thank you so much. It's been great having you. It's been very interesting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here and love your podcast.
Thanks. That's all for today. Thank you for joining. If you guys enjoyed it, rate and review, and hope to see you next time.